Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another tutorial in which we are going to change the input of our game. So right now this is what we have. It sounds really, it looks very similar to what we had in the last episode, but we have a completely different way to actually handle inputs. As you can tell, I'm moving this with my mouse now, so this is using drag, click, hold, drag towards the left, that's a swipe left, swipe right, right, left, up, down, and we also have the tapping. This is working on our mobile device as well. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get right into it. So this whole episode is going to happen in a single script, and then we're going to bring some modification back to the player motor. That's why you see some error here. I've already done that, but I'll show you exactly what I've done when we get to that point. So let's get right into it. We're going to right click on script, get the mobile input script out. And this is going to be the script that is going to pretty much just check every single frame for what kind of mobile input we are actually doing. This is also going to cover editor input, so standalone input, that is your Windows mouse or your Mac mouse or whatever it is. And yeah, basically we're going to have a class that just goes through this, and then that input we get is fed to our game. So this is actually the same exact script we've done earlier in another video, so just on the channel, not a video in this series, but like on the channel in general. And what we did here is that we had multiple boolean, one for tap, one for swipe left, swipe right, swipe up, swipe down. And we could also, I think in the video I pushed and I went for a double tap, but we don't need it in this case. If we do, we'll just come back here, no biggie. And then we also had vector 2s for swipe delta, and then another one for start touch. Now these two vector here, it's whenever, actually let's go with the start touch first. Whenever you start touching the screen and then you start a drag, you're going to keep in memory the position where you start the drag, and then swipe delta is going to be the position from the current position you're on right now. So if you're dragging towards the right, it's going to be that point you're on right now on the right minus your start touch, which is going to give you the distance you've done since you start dragging. And then to use this from outside, we had some public property down here. So public boolean tap, and all we do here, we don't do set, we only do gets. So we do a we do a get, return, and then we take the exact same value with the same name, but this one has a capital letter. So that's the public one, and that is the private one. All we do when we access this is to return the private one. Also gonna make sure that you can't actually set it from outside, so we don't put a set. Just beneath that, we're going to have the public vector 2, same thing, so same concept, but this time we'll return the swipe delta. Let's do a return swipe delta with the small letters. Let's proceed for the other one. So the four next one are for the swipe. So swipe left, we do a return swipe left like this. And you got the drill, so I'm just gonna go ahead and copy all of this again and again. This is gonna be swipe right. Then we got swipe up, swipe down, and make sure you replace the small fields down here as well. A common mistake that I usually make sometimes actually, not usually make, is that sometimes I have something recursive going on here because I forget about this letter here. Sometimes I just leave it capitalized, which means whenever you call a swipe left, you're going to return swipe left, which is still going to call this one, and then you end up with an infinite loop like that. So make sure you replace these by the actual field and not the properties. Okay, so we pretty much just set up our script right here in terms of field. I'm also going to put one more field just at the top here, a public static mobile input, so we can have a reference from outside. Since we're not using any kind of mono singleton or just singleton in general, we're going to use a public static instance, and then make sure that you actually refer to this in the awake. So instance is going to be equal to this. This basically means that we're going to have to have this script somewhere in the scene, and it's instantly going to bind itself to the instance. Okay, so now let's start and actually lay down the logic. Fairly straightforward. It's a little bit long, but you'll see it is fairly straightforward. We start by resetting all the actual booleans to false. So we do tap, it's going to be equal to false. Same thing for right, swipe down, and swipe up. I write this this way, but you don't have to write it the same exact way as I do. You can put it on different lines. Doesn't really matter in the end, but this does the exact same job. So it says tap is equal to this, but before that, this is equal to that. And you know, when you read code like this, it's always from the right to the left. So this one is the first one that's being affected, and then this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, so we reset everything, and then let's check for input. We're going to start with the easy one. So I'll put that in a region since we do like some kind of split over here. Oh, not an if, and region actually. What we do at this point is that we're looking for either the standalone inputs, which is the Windows or Mac inputs, and then we're going to be looking for the mobile inputs. So first, in the region, this is going to be the standalone inputs. And all we have to do in here is input get mouse button down. Now we just code like if it was only for PC basically. So all you have to do is take the mouse inputs. If we press on the mouse button, left mouse button, then we're going to say tap is going to be equal to true for this frame. And then remember, every single frame will reset it. So on the next frame, it's not going to be equal to true anymore. One more thing we're going to do is to make sure we set the start touch to the position of the mouse at this very moment. So input is equal to mouse position. And then we'll turn this into a else if, because we also have to check if we're releasing the mouse click. So if we're releasing the finger as well. If input get mouse button up, oops, same left click. And if we do actually release, then we have to make sure that we reset our input. So we're going to say start touch is going to be equal to swipe delta, and that's going to be equal to vector2.0. Which basically mean if we release everything, or actually if we release a left click, then we're not going to have a start touch anymore, and we're not going to have a difference in between our current position and the start touch. Okay, so that's pretty much all we need for the standalone input. Now let's actually repeat that, but for the mobile input. So I'm going to collapse this, replace this for mobile inputs. And now let's have a look at what we need. So again, fairly simple stuff, but we have to use the touches now. Instead of doing an input get mouse button down, we're going to do a input touches length. It's not equal to 0. So if we at least have one touch on the screen, then we're going to check what is the current phase of this touch. So if you don't know already, a touch might have multiple phases. We're just going to be using the first one. So the first finger you put on the screen is going to be the one that controls everything. This touch has something we call a phase, which is just an enum, and we can check what's in it. So there is few states to a touch: began, cancelled, ended, moved, stationary. We're going to look for began. So if it began, this is basically the same exact thing as get mouse button down. So we'll put this right in here. And now we also have the else if, which I'm going to grab from here and just put it in there. So else if input touches phase, if it's equal to ended, and also we're going to make sure that we don't have this problem where there's never ended because the touch is actually cancelled. We're going to say or phase is equal to touch phase.cancel. So this is either one. So if your touch is ended, then we go ahead and we do the reset. And if it's cancelled, exact same thing. Cancel usually happens in some weird events where the application is actually lost from, well, actually your game is lost compared to the device. It's really hard to explain, but something like you're playing your game right now, you're holding your phone, and then somebody calls. So when somebody calls, you're going to have the caller screen, and that is going to cancel your touch. So this is where the cancel is going to be useful. Okay, that's our inputs. We have the inputs from editor, so we can keep on testing locally right here, and we also have the inputs from the mobile. Let's move on to the final steps, which is basically just to calculate the distance and then decide if we have a swipe or if we don't have a swipe. So let's do a calculate distance. This is the distance in between your start touch and where you are right now, assuming that you have one. We start with a reset on the swipe delta, so swipe delta is going to be equal to vector2.0. And then if start touch, if it's not equal to vector2.0, that means we did start touching somewhere, and we can start looking at did we touch with our finger, and if we did, we can calculate the swipe delta using our finger, and did we touch with the mouse, and if we did, of course, we calculate that with the mouse. So Let's check with mobile. To check with mobile, we're going to say if input touches 0, dot length, touches dot length. If it's not equal to 0, that means we have a touch. So swipe delta is going to be equal to input dot touches at the index 0 position minus the start touch. That's going to give you the position in between where your finger is and where you start dragging your finger. Now, in case we have a start touch, but this is actually based off the mouse, we're going to check if input get mouse button down. If that's the case, do the exact same thing, but this is of course based off the PC standalone build. So let's check with standalone. But instead of doing input touches position, we do input mouse position. And this does not work because input.mouse position returns you a vector 3. And what we have right here is a bunch of vector 2. So let's just make sure we cast this like this. Right in front of the input mouse position, we put the nice cast to a vector 2. And that is actually going to be all we need to calculate the swipe delta. And at this point, we have all the data we need to determine whether we are swiping left, up, down, or right. So to actually check, we're going to need a dead zone, because if you just start dragging just a little bit towards the right, we don't want to say that this is a complete swipe. We don't want to say that this is actually, you know, a swipe, because you might be shaking a little bit. I don't know, you drank a lot of Red Bull in the morning or something. You don't really want that to affect your very small swipe. So let's check if we're beyond the dead zone. So we're going to have a dead zone basically. And to check that dead zone, we'll check it with the magnitude of our swipe delta. So if the magnitude is beyond 100, that's 100 pixel right there, then we're going to go ahead and say that this is a confirm swipe. And I don't really like having this right here. We're going to turn that into a constant. So let's just type in dead zone like this in all caps, go at the top, and declare a private const float. Dead zone is going to be equal to 100, just like we put. Okay, so back to our function. This is a confirm swipe. At this point, we have to check, well, you know, we have a confirm swipe, but in which direction is it? We have 4 different directions: up, down, left, right. How do we go ahead and tell which one it is? So if we just do a quick test, this would be like the start touch. This would be the whole dead zone in the circle, and then we have to decide, you know, whether we're going right, up, down, or left. So how do we actually know in which side we're going? Well, the way I actually tackle this problem is by checking which one has the biggest magnitude. So if we have a vector that goes like this, then I'm going to check what is the biggest amount of difference here. Is it the y, which is basically like this length, or is it the x, which is about this length? Okay, I'm gonna stop with the drawing, but basically let's check which one is the longest. So float x is equal to swipe delta, dot x, or float y is equal to swipe delta dot y. Now we might have a negative value. If we're going left, we're going to have a negative value. If we're going down, also going to have a negative value. So what we do before actually like just checking if x is bigger than y, we're going to do a matf dot absolute x. And if that is bigger than matf absolute y, then we are on left or right, else we are on up or down. And if you don't know yet, the matf.absolute is going to take your value, whatever it is, and turn it into a positive value. So say you have minus 14, then mat.absolute is going to turn that into a 14. If you already have 14, then it's going to stay like that. So this is what it means. And then at this point, now once you're inside of here, you know that you're either going left or right. So you know you have either a confirm swipe on the left or on the right. What you're going to do at this point is take your value, so in that case x, and if that one is actually smaller than 0, if it is negative, that's what it means, well, basically we're going left, so swipe left is going to be equal to true, else it's going to be a positive value, and we can say swipe right is going to be equal to true. Now just know that what I do right here is I simply toggle on a boolean, but know that these are going to be active for only one frame. because on the next frame, of course, we reset them to false. So this is only available for a single frame, which is why in any input script, we constantly check for those in the update. Okay, so let's take this, copy it down here. We're going to do if y is smaller than 0. In that case, we're going down, so swipe down is going to be equal to true, else swipe up is going to be equal to true. Now, one last thing. If we do have a confirm swipe, I'd like to go just beneath that function right about here. And if we do have a confirm swipe, I don't want to have a confirm swipe 2 frames in a row, basically. Once I do have a swipe right, I want to reset it until, of course, we drop the finger and then we drag again. To do this, I'm going to do a start touch. It's going to be equal to swipe delta and then equal to vector2.0. Just like we've done on the ended. So basically, as soon as we remove the finger, that's what we do. So this is our reset, basically. And that should be it for the whole script. I know that was a big script. We wrote it in one go without testing anything, but now is the time to actually test it. So I've already did the modification inside of the player motor. I'm going to walk you through them real quick. They're fairly simple. We're in the player motor right now. And at the very top of our update, we check whether we are going left or right with the input, the get mouse button, or actually get key down. Well, right now we changed that for mobile input, instance swipe left, and if that's the case, we're going left. And just down here, we're checking for the swipe right. And if that's the case, we are, of course, going right. The next one we needed was inside of the is grounded call. So again, this is inside of the update, and then just beneath it, we have the calculate y, which is where we check if we're on the ground, and if we are on the ground, we're trying to jump using mobile instance swipe up. And the last one is when we're trying to fast fall. So if mobile input that instance, then we do a swipe down, we go ahead and we do vertical velocity is equal to minus jump force. So these are the 4 only places we were using inputs before, and they should actually be all ready to use the new input system. Let's give it a try in the editor before we go ahead and build this to our phone. So I'm going to play this real quick. We have our Pingu running. I'm going to click, hold, and then go up. Doesn't seem to work because we do have a no reference error. Okay, so this is something we have to do that I totally forgot to actually tell you. We mentioned it at the beginning, but I didn't actually do it. We have to actually add the mobile input script somewhere. And I'm going to put it on the player. You don't have to put it on the player. It can be anywhere in the scene as long as it is there, somewhere. The reason we don't really have to put it anywhere specific is because it actually sets its instance in the awake call. So right about here. Okay, so with this script now on the scene, we can go ahead and give it a try. Click and hold, then go up. And I can't seem to get this working for some reason. Let's see what is my problem. So to help me debug, I went ahead and I put a debug.log mobile input instance swipe delta inside of a update loop, in this case the player motor update loop. And I gave it a try right here, realized that we never actually get anything. Even if I click, hold, and I move around, we don't get any inputs from the mouse. So let's see what is wrong with this. Private void update. We are going to check for inputs. We're currently in the standalone input, so if we do a get mouse button down, then it actually sets these, that's fine. And let's see, if we do a get mouse button up, that's when we release, it resets. So this code seems fine to me. Let's give it a small debug.log in here just to test things out. Hello. Let's see if it actually gets that hello. Hopefully it does, because that script is quite simple. And it does. So when we click, we do have a swipe, a start touch. And this is equal to input.mouse position. So let's keep on going. Swipe delta, it's equal to 0, so we know that this is being called, but then it should be modified inside of this scope right here. So there is something wrong with this scope. So if start touch is not equal to 0, we know that that's true. Let's check with mobile. That is not really us, we're on standalone. Then we do a okay, so let's see, else if input get mouse button down. So here it is. This is not going to work because we have to constantly check every single frame, and we don't get that condition to trigger every single frame. We only get that condition to trigger when we tap the mouse at the very first frame. But we want to keep on checking while we're dragging, so we have to do a get mouse button by itself. No get mouse button up, no get mouse button down, just a normal get mouse button. That being said, let's go ahead and play this. We have left, up, down, we have all we need basically. So this is actually perfect for what we're doing right here. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out this debug.log I have, so double click on it, make sure I remove it, and we're going to try this on mobile. So here we are, we have the mobile application going on right now. We're going to start making this project buildable. So we're going to go under build settings. I'm under Android, make sure you switch platform if you haven't already, and if you didn't download the package to actually build towards Android, you're going to have to see a download now button here, just like you see here for iOS, so open download page. Since I'm going to be building towards Android, I don't need this module, I only installed the Android one. Same thing on your hand, if you're doing iOS only, you don't need this one. But you know, just know that this is the one that I'll be using. I'm not actually going to add any build to any scenes to the build just yet. I'm simply going to build this and run it. So build and run, I have a build folder under my Subway Skater, so this is pretty much the project folder. Under asset is all the stuff we have here. If we go back one, I have a build folder I created myself, and I usually put the date in here. So today is the 8/28/17, and I like to keep track of the build daily using this method. Quick thing I forgot to do during the video is to go under File, Build Settings, Player Settings, and then give this an actual package name, else you won't be able to build this to your device. So here is mine, com Enrique Subway Skater. Once you have this, you can then click the build and run. Now, if it is actually your first time building to the phone, you're going to have more steps to do than that. There's going to be additional steps. So I invite you to actually click on the card at the very top right of the screen right now. This is going to take you to a video where we explain how to build to an Android device. So go ahead, play this, run it, make sure you have all the settings required to actually run this on your phone, and then once you have it, you can go ahead and test it on your device just like I'm doing right now. My Pixel device has been detected, and I'll be running it here on my phone. Okay, so let's see if I can pull the webcam really quickly so you guys can see what is going on. So it's a very small screen, sorry about that, but it should be enough just to show you that. Whoop, sorry. We do have our build running right here, and if I press on it, it's really bad quality. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to swipe right. You see he's going right. Swipe left, left, right again, up, he goes up, and we do also fast fall. So this is pretty much our build right now. It works just fine on the mobile device. This was tested. We're going to do a higher quality webcam stream once we actually have a good build. Right now I just want to show you that it does work on my device. Hopefully it works on yours. This is using the input.touches, which is you know, Unity uses it for pretty much every single mobile device you see. So Windows Phone, Android phone, and also iOS. Guys, that is pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave it a like. Really enjoy all the likes we've been getting thus far. It really helps the channel grow, and the more we grow, the more time we spend on it, of course. Check out the Patreon page in the description. Check out the actual website if you want to download any assets that we have laying on there, and also the project file for this project are going to be on the website for those who subscribe. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Click the video on the screen right now to head over to the next one, and I will be seeing you there.